Jack Wilson has made a living telling the stories of others, broadcasting the lives of others, working in production trucks, telling the stories that he does so eloquently as the director of post-production digital content at Bally Sports San Diego, the West Coast, and of course, Southern California. And we're going to tell his story here. Now the script is flipped here, Jack, where we're going to be able to look at you and we're going to go from one camera to another, looking at different angles of your life. So now we turn things around here. I'm Bryan Fenley with Fox Sports Radio and a broadcaster for live events. Jack, I'm really excited to have you on here and to tell your story. And this is not just about your career. This is about your life. We want to learn more about who you are and who is underneath that hard worker, that talented media member in this industry. But I got to begin here. How many Van Warped Tour events did you go to in high school?
I don't even know. Probably from, let's see. So I started going probably about the age of 16, went all the way through college. So what is that? It's got to be at least at 7 or 8, right?
In what way do you feel like you're a rock star? Like you were watching those in those concerts?
No, man, that's the whole thing, right? Like I think if we're trying to equate this to my career path, DIY, right? So like the whole, you're talking about Warped Tour punk rock, that's the DIY spirit, and I believe that's kind of how I've been able to just get some of the opportunities I have, self-taught, all that kind of good stuff.
Why do you think, Jack, your brain is so wired to be so good at DIY?
It's just the way it was, right? Like it was, I knew what I wanted to do early on, right? Like I fell in love with sports. For whatever reason, I was always fascinated with the people telling the story as much as I was the people who were on the field, right? So like Bob Miller I loved him as much as I loved any Kings player, right? Like when I'd watch Sports Center, like I had my favorite Sports Center anchors when I was like 10, 11 years old, right? Like I was fascinated by the way people talked about sports too, and the way we told stories about sports as I got older. So I knew I wanted to do that. I didn't really have the means to go to a big school, a big program to study that. So I got lucky with an opportunity. I was waiting tables my freshman year of college, and a gal that worked there, Olivia Stomsky, who is now, I believe, the president or the dean of Newhouse School there at Syracuse. So she was our intern coordinator at Fox Sports West at the time. I waited tables with her. I said, "How do you get an internship?" She said, "Show up Monday." I worked there for about 6 months for free. And then eventually someone said, "Hey, do you want to keep doing what you're doing, but we'll pay you a couple bucks here?" And that was kind of how it started.
When you got that first opportunity as an intern, what was your mindset in you telling yourself, I got to maximize this opportunity? This is a rare chance and I've got to make the most of it and I've got to make a good impression on those around me.
I mean, honestly, I don't know if I knew what I had. I like looking back on it now, it's like I think if I would have known what was at stake there, I think I probably might have froze up a little more. But I was also very reserved and quiet because I was so out of my element. So like I was too timid to speak up and try to like make an impression. Like I wasn't thinking about making an impression. I went in, I put my head down, I said what needs to be done today, and I just hope no one asked me too many questions because I was still trying to figure out what was going on.
From the timid start you had, in that you didn't want to put yourself out there, in the sense of you were still learning and taking in the environment at an early stage of your career, to now really find your voice in this business and to look back at what you were and how you transformed. How does that sit with you?
It's good. I mean, that's it, right? Like reps. We all talk about whether you're calling games, whether you're producing live games, whether you're an editor, whether you're a shooter in the field, it's reps. And that's all it is. It's just confidence. I think some people come into this business projecting that confidence out the gate better than others. That definitely wasn't me, but I knew what I was good at. And I would say, as important as it is to feel confident in what you do and to project confidence, I think it's equally as important to know what you don't know and be willing to admit that and able to admit that and ask to be taught and be willing to be taught. I am only as good as like the mentors I've had. I had a guy named Mark Walton was the first guy who taught me. He was probably the most overqualified person I've ever met in sports television. Like that guy should have been a DP on films, but I think he saw the life that guys who worked on film sets live in the hours and the travel, and he decided sports is better, a better 9 to 5 and a way to have a normal life. So, I think that's the biggest thing, right? Is I have confidence now. I believe I know what, I'm good at what I do now, and it's only because I've taken the advice and the knowledge that other people have given me, and I apply it on a daily basis.
Jack Wilson is with me. I'm Bryan Fenley. When did you feel like you were really starting to hit your stride? You used the word confidence. When you really started to feel that emanate within you?
Man, I think that's part of the trick, right? Is like you never get too comfortable. So that's the balance. Is I would say when I felt like things started to click for me was when I went on a trip with a producer named Mark Worshkel and a shooter named Ed Lewis, and we went to the Dominican Republic for 12 days, and we shot 5 half-hour documentaries, one on Rafael Furcal, one on Vladimir Guerrero, Bartolo Colon, Manny Mota, and then one on Campo Las Palmas, which is the Dodgers facility down there, and the first major league facility ever in the Dominican Republic. So I spent 12 days, and it was a crash course in sports features, right? We shot, we drove, we shot, we drove, and then I came back and I put together one of the 5 shows that we shot. And it was so the cool thing is that was the summer before my senior year in college. I was scheduled to take a documentary film class at my college to make sure I graduated on time, and then I got this opportunity at Bally Sports West right as the class was about to start. So I went on the first day and I talked to my professor at Cal State Dominguez, and I said, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to the Dominican Republic and shoot documentaries. If I write a paper for you when I get back, can I basically not come to class for the next 2 months? And he said, yes.
Wow.
So that was kind of it. I came back from that trip. I went through the slog of putting that show together. That was the hardest thing to this date I've ever done, is trying to put that show together for the first time. But after that, it was kind of like that feeling of, okay, I'll figure it out. Whatever the task is at this point, I'll figure it out.
What made it hard? Because you have all this footage, and here you are trying to condense it. And what goes through your decision-making process in picking what you think is right, what clip at what time to tell the story the way you want it to be told?
That, I think what you just said there is what, because I've been lucky enough to do live television and post-production like we're talking about here, and I think that's the difference for me, right? Like I talked to a live producer who I thought said it perfectly one time. He said the reason he loves doing live TV is because no matter what goes wrong, what happens in that show, you go off the air, you walk out of the truck, and you move on. That's not how my brain works, right? Like I want 3, 4, 5 tries, right? So what you're saying is I don't want to get it right. I know I didn't get it right on the first try. So you put a couple sound bites together, you take a couple B-roll shots and you try to mix it together and make it kind of elicit the emotion you want to. You put some
Oh,
you
you're
put
good.
some music, you put some music under under it, and you try again trying to elicit that emotion. I'm never going to get it right on the first try, and that's what I like, right? I like, put me in that dark room, let me try it 3, 4, or 5 times, and when it goes out the door, I'm still not going to feel like I got it right. I'm only going to feel like I ran out of time. But that's the process I really kind of get the high off of, honestly.
How do you assess your patience? Because some people can't do that. They want to get it right away. And if they don't, they beat themselves up. But for you to sit with yourself in that stillness and say, we're going to work on this, we're going to steadily get better, and then get to the finished product that you like, how far back can you trace that patience that you've had there, Jack?
Oh, I don't know if I've ever been a patient person, but I think no, but that's a really good point, actually, because I think that's that's kind of it, right? Is if it's something you're passionate about, you find it in you, right? So, I would say if somebody's having a really hard time finding the patience, and you're editing, and you're and maybe it's just not for you, right? Like that's how you figure out what's for you and what's not for you. Like I don't think I could have ever envisioned myself sitting in an edit bay for 8 hours trying to figure out what the best option on that kind of stuff was. But I think it's one of those things where um, you're chasing that satisfaction, that gratification of like, I figured it out. It's puzzles, right? It's like I loved writing in school. I like puzzles. I like those kind, and that's what it is. It's problem solving. It's I know what I want the person watching this to feel. I'm going to make you feel what I want you to feel. And there's a million ways I could try to do that. None are right, none are wrong. But I believe I know the best way to make you feel what I want you to feel when you watch this.
How much of what powers you, Jack, is based upon the amount of gratification your work
Mm.
gets from others?
Um, Boy, I wish I could say like I really felt good about all the, when you get an attaboy from a boss, that always feels good. Or if we post everything on social media now as well, and that's such a big part. And quite honestly, I mean, more people see our stuff there than over the air because we're regional networks. So social media has a worldwide reach, and especially when we talk about things like the Angels and Shohei Ohtani's reach and some of the stuff we do around him. But I would say that I always tell people it's like there's this balance, right? The thing that keeps your drive going. Where when I finish a project, if I'm being quite honest, the two feelings are either thank God that's over, or feeling a little bit, man, I wish I could have gone better. I want to do it differently next time. Um, as I've gotten older and matured, there's been a third column, which has been a little bit more of allowing myself to feel good about what we accomplished and those kind of things. And especially once you start to manage others, you realize I got to make sure everyone feels good about what they're accomplishing. So it's not so much about me pushing and driving and grinding. It's now more in the role I'm in. I got to make sure the people beneath me aren't doing that, aren't trying to do that. Then when they do something good, they know it, they feel it. Because for me, that is the balance. You want to feel that gratification, but I think it is good. I think it's healthy to never feel like you quite got it right.
Yeah, because you're always going to want to get better and you're always going to want to improve. Jack Wilson is with me. I'm Bryan Fenley. So, how far along are you in to the point of which you're never fully satisfied? Because I think that's good, because then you're always searching for what's better and challenging yourself. But getting to a comfortable level of self validation with your work,
Mhm.
how far along are you in achieving that?
Good. I like it. We're getting to psychoanalysis here. This is good. No, I like it. This is good because this is an interesting industry, man. Like the people, I talked to one of our operations people one time, and they made a comment about just kind of like the maturity level of some people we deal with, and just kind of the mental psyche of some people we deal with in this industry. It's like, why does it feel like I work with kids? It's like because we'd all be selling insurance if we wanted real jobs, right? Like we didn't want a real job. We didn't want to grow up, but we also are all driven and take pride in what we're doing. So, I mean that for sure. I feel like, I feel, I guess I'm just saying, I feel like it's, if you're able to find some sort of satisfaction in what you're doing um, and balance that out with it continuing to have that drive, like I said, I think it's just that's kind of the key to it.
And maybe not so much in documentary and long form features, but sometimes broadcasts, they get into this like formulaic, could get redundant, and it can lack a creativity.
Mhm.
How are you able to sort of steer clear of that and really inject your personality into your work?
I think that's part of it, right? I have very specific taste. I mean, you made the joke about Vans Warped Tour and that kind of stuff, and I think that's part of it, right? Is your tastes are your tastes, and you have to let some of that leak in every once in a while. The example I'll give is there's this band that's not exactly a mainstream band, and they're not exactly what we would normally put on our air, called Turnstile. They're a little bit more of a hard rock, hardcore kind of younger band, independent band, but they had this song that fits so much what it feels like the energy of our NHL games are, right? And some of the lyrics to a specific song they had aligned with some of our kind of Kings marketing campaigns. So we took this song that I got a little bit of pushback at first on, but we eventually were able to license it for pretty cheap, and we used it for our NHL, our Kings playoff campaign, and got amazing response on social media and all over. And the general response was like, wow, this is not what I would have expected. That's so cool. You guys use this band there. And then a week later they were playing at Coachella. And then 2 weeks later they were on Jimmy Fallon's show. And now that's my specific taste. So the key then is I got 4, 5, 6 other people that kind of work in our group, and it's letting everyone's kind of perspective. First of all, backtrack. It's keeping a diverse group of different opinions, minds, ages, right? I'm 38 years old now. Like, I'm not the cool guy anymore. So, I never was, for the record, but I definitely am not now. So we have a lot of young people that work with us. On the other end of the spectrum, I have some editors who are a lot older and experienced, which works on a lot of areas, in that you kind of keep the right energy, but also you have this diverse group of interests and backgrounds. And then if you have that and you allow room for everybody's interests and backgrounds and specific tastes to kind of leak into the pot here, usually you kind of wind up with a nice variety, and at least can kind of keep things fresh. Now, there's 162 baseball games every year, so that's all relative, how fresh you can keep it.
What type of music do you and your son listen to?
Oh, that's a good question, actually. No, my son just turned 3 years old, and we put on a lot of talking heads around the house and have family dance parties. As part of that, he's also like gotten into watching Stop Making Sense, the old concert film, and so it's actually a nightly basis. We give him about 3 to 4 songs between dinner and shower time, and he picks 3 songs off Stop Making Sense, the Talking Heads live album, and we usually have family dance parties. That's the nightly routine.
So, is it like a family dance party that you guys are having?
Oh yeah, mom, dad, Milo, we all get involved. Sometimes the
What does
dogs
this
get
look
fired
like?
up.
Like, paint a picture. I want to see Jack Wilson and family just totally breaking it down.
Oh, I mean, there's that. My boy love the bongo breakdown. So he's usually, we're usually getting ready for a shower, so he's usually down to his tighty whities. I'm fully clothed, and we're doing the air bongos. We got it all going, man. He's the funny thing is, so again, like my boy's 3, and he, for whatever reason, I think maybe just the visual aspects of it, got fascinated with that concert documentary, and we used to have it on in the house, and over time he like knows specific David Byrne's dance moves, like for specific parts of the song. So like that's usually it. Like my wife and I just laughing, cracking up watching my 3-year-old son do David Byrne dance moves. Yeah.
What is your best dance move? I know you credited your son with what he's got.
No, air bongos. I stick to the air bongos.
Okay.
That's why I grew up going to punk shows, and not a lot of dancing necessary there.
Well, like we all get self-conscious,
Yeah.
like dancing is like, it's tough. You got to really get out of your shell. You get out of your shell so much,
Yeah.
and in your work, but I totally get that. Jack Wilson is with me. I'm Bryan Fenley. What does your son know about what you do for work?
That's cool too. That he's actually coming to a really, really cool age with that. And as all parents will say, he's a sharp kid, smartest kid I know, right? So, but he is. He's, that's what's funny. So my wife works for USC Athletics, so we go to a lot of USC football games as a family, and we say we're going to mom's work. And we've gone to some baseball games and some hockey games, and we say we're at dad's work. And Milo's come with me to a couple of Kings practices, and he sees me QCing shows, and he sees me watching baseball, hockey, basketball, and he sees dad working. And I realized the other day, I was like, this kid's going to be for a rude awakening when he gets his first job, right? Like all he sees, like mom and dad going to work, is we go to the game, right? And but it is cool too, because he recognizes players now. If you ask him who his favorite hockey player is, he said it's Jonathan Quick. If you ask him what basketball team we don't like, he'll tell you it's the Boston Celtics. He can name, I think, about half of the F1 drivers on the starting grid right now by picture. And then our favorite thing right now is just the crazy hockey names in the NHL playoffs. We sit and we watch the games, and he just basically tries to repeat the names as he hears them. Vasilevsky right now is his favorite. So to try to say, so yeah, no, it's great, man. That's given me, you know, it was funny because like when he was born, and I obviously we work in sports, we're lucky we have cool jobs, right? And especially if you have a little boy growing up, you assume he's going to think this is a cool job. So that's kind of been my thing, is like I've had all these great experiences. I've done stuff with the Stanley Cup. We've traveled all around the world. We've, covered championships and all-star games and all that stuff. And now like there's this part of me that's like, oh man, now I want to keep doing this for a little longer at least, because I want him to see it, right? Like I don't want it to be me telling him like, oh, back in the day, Dad did this stuff. I want to keep doing it for a little longer because I need him to see me doing it so he thinks I'm cool.
It's like an athlete who is professional and they have kids and they want to stay in the league long enough so that the kid is old enough to go in the clubhouse and really remember what happened, so that, like you said, it's not sort of like an Uncle Rico situation. Like back in my day, I don't foresee, Jack, that happening for you. I want to leave you with this last question. Jack Wilson joins me on Bryan Fenley on a Something podcast. How does your son show you and tell you that he loves you?
Oh, wow. We're fortunate. He's an affectionate kid. He lots of hugs. You know what he's into right now? Giving raspberries. He figured out how to like do it on your stomach. So he hasn't figured out how to like trick you into it. He asks you to first sit on the ground and then lay down, and then like pulls your shirt. So he's not very good at like the subtlety of it. But yeah, I think we're definitely in the wrestling and that whole thing. Just kind of like, he's a boy. He's a little boy. So it's really fun, man.
What a joy that is to have him in your family. And it won't be long, Jack, before he follows suit in what you did. And I don't know, maybe as a teenager, he starts checking out Vans Warped Tour or something of that, as you did, living through you and listening to that music. Jack Wilson, I'm Bryan Fenley. Thanks so much for doing this, man. This was really fun.
Great, man. I appreciate it, Bryan. I've heard some of the stuff you've done with them, my former colleagues. Appreciate what you do here to shine a light on people working hard in this industry, man.